Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain. Excuse me. And today on Lest We Forget Historical, we are doing a fact check on the question, that involves the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Does it ban convicted felons from taking office? The story was written by Brianna J. Frank. You can find it in USA Today. So is the claim the Constitution clearly states that a felon cannot take elective office? Well, it depends. Yes, Donald Trump was convicted on 34 counts of felony, but the sentencing was to be held off until after the election. And yes, in Section 3 of the amendment, the 14th, clearly states that a felon cannot take elective office, even if that candidate is the winner of the election. So the question is, if he wins the election, can he still become president of the United States? And the answer is that the 14th Amendment doesn't exactly say that. And as they always tell you, read the fine print. So what does the fine print says? That neither the 14th Amendment or any of the other amendments bans a convicted felon from taking office. The section that is being referenced is when that person has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and they have engaged in insurrection. And that can prevent a person from becoming president of the United States. So when you look back at the January 6th insurrection, you could see that Mr. Trump danced a very fine line indeed. However, even the Supreme Court has weighed in and states emphatically that Congress must act in order for it to be enforced. And depending who's in charge of Congress at that time, it can make things rather difficult. The backstory: Trump was found guilty in May of all 34 felony counts in his New York hush money trial. He was originally scheduled to be sentenced on July 11th, but Judge Juan Merchan later delayed Trump's sentencing until after the presidential election. But his convictions wouldn't prevent him from assuming office if he wins re-election. David Cole, a Constitution law professor at Georgetown, says there is no bar in the Constitution on felons serving as presidents, which doesn't say much for us, does it? The section that is referenced in the post, originally in Threads, does ban people from taking office if they have participated in certain actions. Here is what Section 3 says, quote, "No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability." So, where does that leave us? Well, for a fact check, election officials debunk claim that marked ballots are invalid. In reference to the Supreme Court in March, overturned a Colorado Supreme Court ruling that allowed Trump to be removed from the state's primary ballots under the provision for his role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitals. However, the Supreme Court disagreed, and they ruled that Donald Trump can stay and remain on the Colorado ballot ahead of Super Tuesday. So what do we have here? Well, a lot of it depends on what the Supreme Court says, and a lot of it also depends on who can get the most votes, whether the electoral votes or the popular votes. But then you also have this president who has already been convicted of a felon start threatening people, saying, I better not lose the election. So what you need to decide, citizens of the United States, is whether or not legally he still can run for office, but do you really want a convicted felon to be head of that office? And of course, you're announcing to the rest of the world what kind of person you want to be in charge of your country. And yes, this is a very brief episode today, but I thought it was important for us to address the 14th Amendment and what can and cannot prevent a convicted criminal from becoming president of the United States. So thank you very much for joining us. You can see this program all over again on youtube.com/@PassionateWorldRadio. Also on our website, https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Scroll down till you come to State of Current Affairs. Click on the link. And the web page will appear with a Google link, and it will take you inside youtube.com. And not only can you see Lest We Forget Historical, but Scam Damnation, Chatting with Betsy, and all the other programs that we provide on a weekly basis. You can also look up the companies who sponsor our programs. The first one is a publishing company in Singapore, where the proprietor and her staff will help you write up your memoirs. It's just not the famous who get to write history anymore. It's the people who have something to say about their influence and their involvement with history. So please do yourself, your family, your peers, and the rest of the world a favor and be published. Also by myflex.com. Go over to http://AIwithlillian.com. Let your fingers do the walking. One total complete package. AI constantly having new categories added to it. Try it. You'll love it. Also by PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com. How do the obstacles of podcast training, a 2-month course, 5 days a week, 1 hour, interactive. Learn everything you've always wanted. Plus, go over to the website, https://education.passionateworldtalkradio.com. And Ruby AI, http://AIwithlillian.com. We're talking about, of course, artificial intelligence, visual and verbal. You won't need to sit in all the phone books because it's now gone digital, but you have everything on one spot. It's a no-brainer, and it's innovated, and it saves time. And how often does time get away from all of us. Try it. You'll love it. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great day. Have a great weekend. See you next Friday. Same bat time, 3 p.m.